Another day, another episode of KnightChat, first on air, your go-to podcast for everything FIRST robotics related and more. I'm your host Chandra, and today's topic is project management. Project management is literally everywhere. Organization is key when running anything, from a small project to a large organization. It's time to meet the people behind our project management sub-team, the team lead Athen Kalivas and mentor Sharon Schuster. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Hi, Chandra. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Athen Kalivas. My pronouns are he, they, and I am the first ever project manager here on Team 195.
Hi, Sandra. Thank you for having us. My name is Sharon Schuster, and I'm the project management mentor here on Team 195.
Okay, let's start off with the basics. How would you guys define project management, and why is it important, especially for a robotics team?
Thank you, Chandra. That's a great question. When it comes to defining project management, I think the word kind of explains itself. It's managing various projects. When it comes to a robotics team, it's planning, defining, and adapting. First, we have to define what our goal is. Truly defining your goal for a robotics team can seem pretty simple, but it's quite complex. When it comes from designing a robot to having one on the field, there's so many small parts and so many different people that come into that process. When it comes to defining our goal, it is a collaborative process. Understanding what happens through CAD, manufacturing, electrical, and then onto our build team as well as programming. Then we get into the how. It's how we're getting there. So understanding the key parts of our process and where a robot design needs to go in order to make it onto the field, we have to put that into consideration when it comes to managing that project. Next is understanding the who. Who's working on what project? From the students in each individual sub-team to more mentor-based and led projects, we are able to understand who to contact, who to communicate with at any given part of our process. And then the when. Obviously, with robotics, our timelines are very set in stone. We have to understand when upcoming competitions are, as well as outreach activities, which we might need a robot ready for. So understanding those deadlines, as well as the contingencies for meeting those deadlines, such as when programming needs a complete and finished robot by the time of X amount of days prior to the competition, that's something that we have to build into our timeline and understanding that when. And then there's adapting. Understanding that issues are going to arise. And that's a part of the process. It's good to take things as they come. So, which is why it's important to build in time specifically for when things go wrong and for when possible redesigns are necessary.
Yeah, Team 195 knows a lot about redesigns.
Oh my gosh, do not remind me.
So let's start diving deep into how 195 runs the team. Specifically, what software we use, what practices do we go about that we think works best. Really dive deep into it.
Here on 195, we utilize a software called Monday.com. This has been kind of the bread and butter to our project management system when it comes to communicating and understanding timelines on the team. Monday.com is very straightforward and customizable and very easy to use for any robotics team. Specifically with FIRST, it has a partnership program. Sharon, would you like to share a bit about that?
Yes, Monday.com has a partnership with FIRST Robotics where it offers many teams a free version. If you look at the FIRST official dashboard, you should be able to get more information on that. There are many other softwares that you can use, and a plain whiteboard can also work.
Oh, yeah, definitely. We have one in our flex room. We have one right out at the entrance, and I think there's another one roaming around somewhere. We have a lot of whiteboards here.
Oh yeah. Originally when we started project management, no one had any prior knowledge, so we were solely using whiteboards and whiteboard calendars, which are a great start and a great, easy to understand visual for what needs to be accomplished and when.
Yeah, it doesn't hurt to just start simple. Like, you don't need to go, like, Monday is, I would say it is a very easy program to work with, but it can get a lot overwhelming, like really overwhelming when you have a lot of moving parts. We have 20 boards on Monday. There's a lot going on. And then if you look at the mechanical page, it's just part after part. Like, I don't even understand it myself. But starting off easy with the whiteboard is definitely, I would say it's a really good idea. On our whiteboard at the entrance, it is literally just a calendar for the next 3 weeks. And it has like all of our stuff. Like, we need to do this here. We have practices for this here, like these days. And it's right at the entrance, so all the students can see it.
It's one of the first things you see when you come in.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah.
And students can just look at it and be like, oh, we're doing this today, and then just get right to work. So I really suggest whiteboards if you don't really have a good grasp on the Monday system.
There's also some free-to-use systems and easier-to-use systems, such as ClickUp, Planner, and Microsoft Project. Those are, while I do not have experience with those myself, they might be a good starting point for you and your team. Now, here on Team 195, we have 8 separate sub-teams. We have our CAD department with computer-aided design, mechanical, pit and assembly, electrical, 3D printing, business, strategy, and yours truly, project management. So using Monday, we separate each one of these sub-teams on their own individual boards. For those who are unfamiliar, boards are a way to separate different tasks on a project management software. So for instance, as you're talking about our design and manufacturing board, we have everything from everything on the life cycle of a part. So we have the name of the part separated through where on the robot that will be. So for instance, we have a entire category just for a shooter with shooter parts titled SH-01, and that will have the file for that part, but more importantly, the status and its dependencies. For instance, as we all know, when it comes to designing a part, we first have to put it onto the computer before it is printed out, and then put onto the robot, assembled, and then handed over to electrical. So here on 195, what we use personally is we will have the status of where in that process that part is currently, whether it's still being designed, whether it's being either printed or manufactured, or if it's finally assembled onto the robot. Additionally, with each part, we have if it's necessary for spare parts, if it's needed to be assembled, as multiple different parts may come into one entire section of the robot. For instance, there's a multitude of individual parts that go into our shooter, as lovely as it would be if it would just be printed out perfectly. That would save us so much time. Might have to go into that, actually. And then finally, we have the timeline. The timeline explains when we expect the part to be done, as well as when we start it. So from when we'd like it to be done by CAD or assembly, we have those individual and separate timelines, as well as we have our timelines to be adjustable as those problems will arise, because they do, as I said prior.
And for our audience out there, I gotta promote my business sub-team, obviously, because I love my sub-team. Monday is not just for mechanical parts and like CAD, life cycle of a part, Even though all of our members do use it, we also use it over here on the business sub-team and the strategy sub-team. Anytime we have something to get done, like we need to adjust something on our website, or like we put in all of our due dates for impact, so we're always ready and we know what we need to do and when we need to do it by. And also, there is a feature on Monday where you can assign people specific tasks. So our sub-team has a lot of students on it, and there's a lot of moving parts. We have like judging sheets, scouting cards, all these different kinds of stuff that need to be made in Canva. And just so it's easier for kids to know what they're doing, instead of being like, oh, what are we doing today? Like, they haven't been here in a while and they're like, what are we doing? Just check Monday. Just check Monday and you're assigned to the project and you know what task you're supposed to be doing.
I will give a lot of credit to our business department. They have been on top of their Monday, as well as our strategy department as well. I do not have to worry about them. I will say that. CAD, though, they are sick of me, all right? I will say that.
Speaking of keeping on top of things, can you just dive deep into how you actually communicate with different sub-teams? Because there's so many on our team. Like, there's so many people on our team, there's so many sub-teams, and it's kind of hard to actually make sure everybody's working together, all the pieces are working coherently. So how do you communicate with them to make sure things are getting done on time?
Well, communication is the root of project management. On 195, along with face-to-face communication, we have our whiteboards, we have Monday, and of course, we have bi-weekly meetings for the project management sub-team. And during these meetings, we sit together with the leads and project management representatives from each sub-team, and we discuss, what have we been doing? What do we need? Are there any specific issues going on? So really, we dive deep into what's going on into each sub-team, giving each student the opportunity to speak and truly understand the process, even if you're on a different sub-team, or you might be in business and want to know what's going on in strategy, or what really is the lathe and why are all of our projects bottlenecked through it. But it's a great way to bolster that understanding for incoming students as well as students on different sub-teams. So it's really a better way to understand what's going on with that robot. But when it comes to communication, we of course utilize Monday again. Using Monday, we're able to understand exactly where in a process a part may be. Of course, when it comes to building a robot, there are a multitude of contingencies when it comes to needing a robot part done by a certain time for a certain sub-team. So when it comes to those quick and easy single question type basis for communication, we're able to just see it through the visuals on Monday. And additionally, luckily we are so blessed to have an entire wing of a building to ourselves. If you guys haven't been to our full-scale practice field, highly recommend.
I didn't even ask her to promote that.
Oh yeah, look, on the 195 website, feel free to sign up. It's a great way to practice your autos, practice some defense, other robot necessary needs, pre-competition. It's great, it's beautiful. So when it comes to communication, it's very easy for us here. And as aside from walking across the shop to the CAD room or to the flex room, which the business team has basically adopted, communication is very easy for us. But when it comes to times that we are sadly apart and can't live in the shop, as even though Jacob loves to set up his hammock every year, we are able to utilize Discord. So our entire team is basically built around a Discord server. From student inquiries to necessary information for when or where our weekly meetings are, we are able to communicate via full sub-team, individual student, quick and easy. I have very much been annoying our electrical lead Jack through this system.
Oh my god. Yeah, I would say Discord is definitely the most active during our competitions because that is the only way to communicate with each other.
Oh yeah.
It's like you're in a stuffy gym, competing, and you got like half the team in the stands and then you got like the other half in the pits. How in the world are you going to ask someone for something like in the pits from the stands? We use Discord. But anyways, our mentors also, they make sure to use the announcement feature and they tag everybody to make sure that everybody's getting the messages. We make sure that everybody's phones are off Do Not Disturb. They're getting these notifications. Phones are buzzing throughout these competitions. I would say Discord is one of the best ways to communicate through competitions.
Oh, certainly.
Obviously, we don't use it just during competitions, but still. So let's dive into project management for other sub-teams. So what would you guys say are the factors that are the most important for teams to consider when organizing projects, when building these robots, when planning impact? What are the most important factors?
I would say the first thing to take into account is just keep it simple and start on a high level. Where do you want to be? What do you need to get done? Start small, then expand. If you get into the details too quickly, you often lose sight of your goal and what your timeline is. I think success is just stepping back, looking at the whole process, then going into the details.
I completely agree. When it comes to formatting certain tasks or larger projects, you have to understand and develop timelines. They're a key necessity. So for us with robotics, it's understanding when's our next project, when's our next contingency, when's our next competition. So understanding the timelines as well as what tasks are connected to others, which ones can't start until another one is finished. You have to start that communication very early in your process. It's the thing that you do before you even touch your project management software, before you pick up the dry erase marker for your whiteboards. You have to sit down and talk face to face.
I've mentioned this in other episodes, but we do have a kickoff event here in our shop, and we have parents, government officials, all the students, friends, alumni, family. They all come, we watch the kickoff video, and then we come back to our shop and strategy. That's it. Reviewing the game book, doing presentations on it. Kickoff is literally the only reason why I know what is going on in this game. So it actually is a really great thing. And then we, our parents make the actual field out of cardboard. I mean, right now, obviously, we have a fully built field, but before, our lovely parents.
Lovely parents. All of the kudos to them. Shout out to Sharon. She's also a 195 parent.
And also alumni. A lot of alumni come back.
Oh, certainly.
Yes.
Yeah, and they make a cardboard field, and we do play out the game, but after we play out the game, we sit down and we talk, and we're like, what worked, what didn't work? Obviously, we're not robots, but I mentioned this in the strategy episode, it works well, just talking out, what strategy works best? Do we need to really waste time on climbing, or can we get 30 more balls in the time it would take for us to climb and get more points? Practicing and talking, like Athen said, is talking together is how you're actually going to figure things out.
In addition, when it comes to breaking down certain projects, as well as timelines, as beautiful as they are, you have to also understand possible issues. Because martial law, anything that could go wrong may go wrong. You also have to understand if it's realistic, For us this year, sadly, we had to cut our climb, as beautiful as a plan that it originally was, when it comes to understanding the amount of points that we could score purely just from getting that fuel into the hopper. We realized that maybe that should have been our priority from the start. So understanding that those parts into the timelines and breaking them up into the little basic steps of where a part starts, to where it's built, to where it is assembled onto the robot, getting those basic steps down and fully babyifying your plan is the best way to, I'm serious, you have to dumb it down to a very basic level to purely understand what you need to be putting into your either project management softwares or onto your whiteboards or communicating through your team via carrier pigeon. So when you understand those baby steps, you also have to look into those priorities. For instance, if you need to get certain things for an upcoming outreach event, that is certainly going to be a priority before some of your more long-term goals.
All right, it is about that time of the episode for my favorite part, the cyber side chat. So for our audience that doesn't know what the cyber side chat is, I'm going to pose a little question for our guest today, not completely related to the topic of the episode. So picture this. You guys are you're in a company. Well, Sharon, technically you're working for a company, so you're already living the dream. But you're in a company, and one of the projects that you helped organize worked so well. It just, boom, went super duper crazy. It's in the news and everything. What would you want the headline to be? So if your project or you in general just went famous and in the news, what would you want your headline to be?
That is tough.
Thank you for asking the question, and it's a good one. I think I would title it, It's All About the Process, because success only happens if everybody knows what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, who's going to do it, and when do we need it done. Throwing a level of high level of communication and flexibility to help go through the challenges and unexpected changes we have to do throughout the project. If we don't have that process, we're not going to have the success. So project management brings process into the world of robotics and outreach and fundraising. And 195 actually uses the FTC. We use it throughout the whole year. And we're trying to expand it into other aspects of our team. Events, outreach, our FLL planning,
Yeah.
all our successes go that way.
With project management, it is completely about the journey and about the destination, but focuses so much more on how we're getting there. You know, as you said, we actually introduce project management on our FTC level as well. For those who don't know, on 195, we introduce our underclassmen, being the freshmen and sophomores, to FTC before they even touch the FRC robot in the FRC season because it's later in the year. So for those incoming freshmen and sophomores onto our team, they get to understand firsthand what it takes to build a robot. And of course, part of what it takes is understanding project management. So we've actually set up a multitude of presentations, classes, team-wide, for understanding the importance of project management, as well as how to implement it into each and every one of your projects. So with our FTC teams, we have separate boards on Monday for them as well, for understanding what needs to go into their more microwave-sized robots.
The other thing I love about the introduction of project management in Monday in FTC is that it allows all the students to be familiar with project management. The other nice thing is every member of our team has access to Monday. So even if you're not part of a sub-team or you're not part of the design of the FRC robot, you can still see what is going on. And so the team is able to communicate without even speaking. It really is a benefit for our team.
And another really important thing that comes to our boards on Monday.com is that in between each one of our competitions, we make a competition tracker. This is a even more simplified and clear visual for what we need to do in between our competitions, whether that be from creating a pit list to editing our impact scripts. It's everything that we need to do to get robot ready, the students ready, and prepare for our upcoming competition. Because, as you know, even if competitions go perfectly, you're going to have some new goals and some new tasks as you move forward. And honestly, that's one of my favorite parts of robotics. You're always evolving, you're always changing your ideas, the meta's always shifting, either that be from a lob shot to some other insane mode of transportation that I'm sure we haven't even discovered yet. That'll be the next thing in 2030.
All right. So, Sharon, this question is for you specifically. So you come from a professional business world when it comes to project management. Can you explain how practices you used in a business transfers over to project management within a robotics team?
To me, it's a natural transition. As you mentioned before, project management is in everybody's day, whether you really realize it or not. We all make lists. We all think ahead. When you're getting ready for school, you're trying to figure out what time to wake up to make sure you're not too late to get marked tardy before going into school. Robotics is just one big project, just like we have at school or at work. As I mentioned earlier, you just want to break everything down from the upper level. Usually start back from your timeline, and what you want to do is you want to look at the project and basically start backwards. That's what I recommend people. Start simple and start backwards. What's your deadline? When do you need to be the competition? When do you need to have that robot ready? And then figure out all the steps you need to have happen before then. See if you can get it all done. If you can't, you have to adjust. You remove certain things, you look for bottlenecks, you look for things that you could parallel path. With all of that, you have a success, hopefully, and it's just like in business. We do the exact same thing every day at work.
Are there any practices that you use within your workplace that you would like to see adopted to 195 or robotics teams that we haven't been using already?
195 does a great job of integrating project management into most of the aspects of the team. As mentioned earlier, I would like to see maybe a little more usage of it in our non-robotic design and competition season. But other than that, I think we're doing a great job, and there's always room for improvement, but I think we're great.
This year, we've actually implemented some boards specifically for our outreach activities to better organize from our STEM for All event. as well as our Elder Knights programs. So it's when it comes to tackling your outreach, having something that clearly marks what you're doing and when, which could be great for understanding for your impact scripts later on when you're preparing at the start of the season. It's a great way to understand what you've accomplished and how far you've come.
All right. So, this is one of my favorite. Okay. In the middle of the crescendo FRC season, our robot went through a 9-day rebuild. It was a rough season. It was a rough one. We went through a 9-day rebuild, and honestly, we speak of it as if it's like a legend. Like,
I get the 1,000-yard stare every time it's brought up.
this actually led to the birth of the project management subteam because in a 9-day rebuild, there's a lot going on. Do you guys want to go in depth on how this happened and what actually happened during those 9 days?
I would love to. So, for those who do not know me personally, back in 2024, I was a sophomore on the team. I am a senior now. Let me tell you, being a baby little sophomore, new to robotics, fresh off the FTC boat, being thrown into a 9-day rebuild is truly the experience of a lifetime. And I wouldn't trade it for anything, as stressful as it was. So in between our district Waterbury event, which ended on March 10th, to our Western New England competition on March 22nd, coming off of that competition, we realized there was a lot that needed to change. I was actually talking with one of our alumni Thursday in preparation for this, and he quite literally said, anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So this is why I say, and why I nail in the point, make time for redesigns, make time for those little hiccups that come along the way. If things have the ability to go wrong, they will go wrong. And that's okay. That's a part of creating anything, from art to really just anything, life. Things go wrong, and that's okay, because it builds better character and it builds better robots. So we sat down after the comp and we decided that a lot of things needed to change. So we decided that in those roughly 9 days, maybe 10, 11, between those competitions, of course, with packing up the pit again and drive practice and programming, we were going to design the whole robot. And that was one of the biggest tasks that I think that our team has had to tackle in the past 3 years, if not the biggest. And of course, we have the history of building our robot at the competition. So when it came to spearheading project management, it was a challenge. At the time, we had roughly 40 students on the team, as we do now. And project management has significantly evolved over those past 3 years. We started off with whiteboards, as we said prior. We started off with just writing things down, understanding what we wanted to tackle, understanding our priorities, those basic steps for what we needed to do. And at the time, while we were blessed to have Sharon on our team now, she was not a mentor at that point. So we had the mentor at the time, Kylie, who I love her so much. I owe so much of where project management is today to her. And we broke everything down. We understood those basic steps. We set together a very strict timeline, and we understood what we wanted to get done from everything that we needed to get done, everything that we would have liked to get done, the good to haves, the needs, everything. So in those quite literally those first few days of project management, we completely changed how our system here works at 195. I'm telling you, those CAD kids were done with me by the end of that week. But we had those one-on-ones with our leads of every single day of where we were, what needed to get done, and we understood the contingencies. So, of course, it always comes down to bottlenecking at the start of the process and at the end, where when it came down to our CAD kids and our programmers and everyone in between for the mechanical and electrical, we took every process each day, each hour at a time. So we had things boiled down to if we wanted things done midday, mind you, after school. And this was, of course, start of the next semester as well. The way that these students came through, and truly, project management will fall through if your students are dedicated. And I will say that through robotics and through being on 195, I can say with confidence that we have some of the most dedicated students, the most dedicated people I have ever seen. So having those people who are just as passionate for getting this robot done it fueled my own fire, truly. And I think that, whoa, voice crack. And I think that truly has brought project management to where it is now. And it's truly it was the first tadpole in the beautiful toad that we are today. We did it. We actually redesigned our entire robot, which ended up winning several competitions afterwards and getting, I believe, 3 banners that year, with 2 of them being in DCMP and Western New England as well.
So I can just hear the mechanical kids blazing down the door to the shop. Any final advice for our teams out there?
So one final thing that happens with any timeline is to understand your own limits. Mental health is the basis of being able to function, being able to do good and efficient work. It's best to take your time on a project if it's going to be done well the first time, even though snags do happen, as always. But it's best to understand your own limits, when you need your sleep, when school comes first, as much as we hate to say it, that being a student comes before being a robotics kid. But you have to understand where your limits are. To make a high-performance robot, you need a high-performance plan. You need to have that timeline, you need to have that structure, and you need to have that understanding of every student along the way. Being able to utilize project management effectively, you have to look at so many small little pieces, many different cogs in the ticking machine that a robotics team is, and the parts that need to go into that. Communication to project management is really the egg to a chicken. So make sure that you are communicating in each and every step of the way. So when it comes to project management, as we continue to implement it into more and more robotics teams, you have to understand your goal, how you're getting there, who's doing what, when you need it, and adapt to challenges as they come.
Thank you guys so much for being on today's episode. I'm really glad that you guys could make it. Unfortunately, it is time to end because our mechanical kids need to get to work on the robot. So if you want to check out any updates on Team 195, you can find us at FRC Team 195 on Instagram, FRC Team 195, the Cyber Knights on Facebook, and our website, team195.com. If you have any questions about the podcast, if you want to be featured as a guest, email us at our email, business@team195.com. I'm Chandra, your host, and thank you for listening to this episode of Night Chat, first on air, and see you next episode.